The elderly, wealthy woman lived alone in the countryside, always believing her children cared deeply for her. But one afternoon, she discovered something painful, not through words, but through silence. Invitations to family gatherings stopped coming, calls went unanswered, and visits became rare. She realized her children's love was fading, replaced by indifference and distance. Heartbroken, she left her home, seeking solace in the quiet memories of her late husband. When exhaustion finally took hold and she collapsed by the roadside, a humble black family passing by stopped to help. They welcomed her into their home, offering a warmth she hadn't felt in years. And when she finally moves forward, one family's life will be forever changed, and her own children will come to understand what they truly lost. She raised them with everything she had. Late nights, empty stomachs, sacrifices no one ever saw. And when her hands grew tired, her heart still held them close. But time passed, and so did their affection. When she needed them most, when her legs trembled and her voice grew soft, they vanished. No calls, no visits, only silence. She walks now with the weight of memories, and a photo that once meant everything. Her name is Agnes, widowed at 34, alone with 3 children and a broken world. She didn't complain, she endured. She worked double shifts, sewed their clothes, packed lunches with little but love. Every birthday cake made from scratch. Every graduation attended with pride in her trembling hands. She cheered the loudest, clapped the hardest, smiled the brightest. They grew, moved on, promised they'd call, promised they'd visit. But life got busy. Suddenly, Mother's Day was just another Sunday. The phone stayed quiet, her mailbox filled with nothing but bills. Then came the promise, just for a little while, Mom. The nursing home will take good care of you. She waited. 1 week, then 2, a month, a year, but no one came back. No one. She wasn't a mother anymore, just another forgotten room number on the 3rd floor. A woman whose only visitors were the echoing footsteps in the hallway. The days inside the nursing home turned to months. Gray walls, routine meals, and a silence so loud it screamed. Agnes sat by the window each morning, her frail hands clutching the armrest, eyes fixed on the front gate, hoping today would be the day they'd remember her. One birthday passed. Then another. Not even a card. Not even a call. The staff said they must be busy, but Agnes knew. She wasn't a priority. She was a burden. Forgotten. One cold morning, she packed her small purse with trembling hands. Just an old photo, a threadbare shawl, and a single apple she'd saved from breakfast. She walked out through the side entrance. No one noticed. No alarm sounded. She disappeared as easily as she'd been ignored. The wind was sharp, slicing through her thin coat as she wandered aimlessly. Her legs ached, her breath short, but her heart had long been broken. Agnes reached the edge of a small park, the kind she once took her children to when they were small. Swings still creaked in the wind. Laughter echoed in the distance. Not for her. Not anymore. She lowered herself onto a wooden bench beneath a bare tree. Her fingers clutched the photo tighter. 3 bright faces, her babies, smiling, once full of love. Her lips trembled as she whispered their names. Hours passed. No one looked her way. People rushed by, phones in hand, earbuds in ears. A world too fast, too distracted, to see the woman breaking in plain sight. Her stomach cramped with hunger. She hadn't eaten since yesterday. Her limbs began to shiver uncontrollably. She closed her eyes. Maybe this was it. Maybe this was how it ended. Quietly, in a city that never noticed. Then, a pause. Footsteps slowed. "Ma'am, are you all right?" A warm voice. A gentle voice. Agnes opened her eyes to see a woman kneeling beside her, eyes filled with concern. Her name was Lena. Not a nurse. Not a worker. Just someone who saw what others didn't. Lena wrapped her own coat around Agnes's shoulders without hesitation. "Let's get you warm," she said softly. Agnes tried to protest, her voice weak. But Lena wasn't listening to excuses. She was listening to her heart. For the first time in months, someone saw her. really saw her. Not a patient, not a problem, just a person, a mother, a woman worth saving. And in that moment, a crack of light pierced through the darkness Agnes had lived in for far too long. Lena didn't ask questions. She simply acted, with the instinct of a mother and the heart of someone who's known what it means to feel alone. She gently helped Agnes to her feet, her teenage son Malik hurrying over with a concerned look. "Is she okay, Mom?" he asked quietly. "We'll make sure she is," Lena replied, wrapping her arm around Agnes with a firm, protective tenderness. They didn't drive a fancy car, just an old sedan with a cracked window and a heater that rattled. But inside that car was warmth, more warmth than Agnes had felt in years. She sat quietly in the back seat, hands folded in her lap. Her lips moved slightly, silent prayers of confusion and gratitude. The ride was short, but it felt like a lifetime. A turn down a narrow street led to a modest two-bedroom home. Peeling paint, a squeaky porch step, but every detail whispered welcome. Malik opened the front door, and Lena helped Agnes inside. The aroma of cinnamon and worn wood greeted them. It wasn't luxury, but it was love. "Let's get you cleaned up first, sweetie," Lena said, guiding Agnes to the bathroom. She handed her a soft towel, warm clothes, and a lavender-scented bar of soap. For the first time in ages, Agnes stood beneath running water. Not institutional, not rushed. It cascaded over her frail body, washing away the grime, the cold, the months of silent despair. Her reflection in the mirror shocked her, but in her eyes there was a flicker, not hope, not yet, but something close. Lena had laid out a worn but clean dress on the bed. A hand-me-down, perhaps, but it smelled of detergent and kindness. When Agnes emerged, clean and trembling, Malik was setting the table. A bowl of soup waited for her, steam curling in the air like a warm embrace. She sat down slowly, unsure. Her hands shook as she reached the spoon. "Take your time," Lena said softly. "We're in no rush here." The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was sacred, a quiet space for healing to begin. Malik, awkward but sincere, offered a smile. "Do you like music, ma'am?" he asked. Agnes nodded faintly. He played something soft on his phone, jazz, gentle and low. She closed her eyes for a moment. Music had always been her sanctuary. That night, after the dishes were washed and Malik had gone to his room, Lena sat across from Agnes on the couch. "You don't have to tell me everything," she said. "But if you ever want to talk, I'm here." And then, slowly, painfully, the words came. Broken sentences, moments stitched together by tears. She spoke of the nursing home, of the years she gave her children, of birthdays spent alone, voicemails left unanswered, promises that turned into silence. Lena listened, not with pity, but with presence. Malik peeked out from his room, hearing fragments of story. He didn't understand all of it, but he understood the look in her eyes, the ache of being forgotten. And when Agnes finally ran out of words, Lena reached across the table and took her hand. "You matter," she said. "Even if they forgot, even if they walked away, you still matter." Agnes couldn't respond. Her throat was thick with emotion, but her grip on Lena's hand said everything. That night, she didn't sleep in a sterile cot or behind locked doors. She slept in a warm bed, beneath a quilt that smelled of home, in a room with a small lamp and a window that welcomed the moonlight. And for the first time in a very long time, she slept without fear, without wondering who would remember her, because someone already had. In the days that followed, Agnes began to rediscover what it felt like to be part of something, to belong again. Lena's home was small but full of life, filled with the smells of fresh herbs and simmering stews. Each morning, Agnes found herself in the kitchen, hands no longer trembling as she chopped vegetables beside Lena. There was something healing in the rhythm, the slice of knife, the sizzle in the pan, the gentle hum of conversation blending with the clinking of dishes. Malik often joined them, eager to learn from Agnes's careful hands, asking questions about the recipes she had once cooked for her own children. Stories flowed between them, old memories spilling out like sparks. Tales of family dinners, birthdays, laughter that once filled the walls of her home. though the pain of abandonment still lingered beneath her smile. Each shared moment began to mend invisible cracks in her spirit. Outside, Lena's small garden became their sanctuary. Agnes, with fingers weathered but steady, planted seeds alongside Malik, teaching him the patience needed to coax life from soil. The earth beneath her nails felt grounding, a reminder that even broken things could grow again. Lena watched as Agnes's eyes, once clouded with sorrow, began to shine with something close to hope. She helped Agnes schedule a visit to the doctor, a step Agnes had avoided for too long, afraid of what silence might mean for her health. At the clinic, Agnes was greeted not as a forgotten elder, but as a valued patient. Tests were done, medicines prescribed, and for the first time in years, Agnes felt the weight of neglect lifting, replaced by care. Back home, Lena's family welcomed Agnes into their daily lives. Simple joys like watching Malik play basketball in the yard, sharing cups of tea in the fading afternoon light, and curling up with books on rainy evenings. Laughter, once foreign, became familiar again. There was a day when Malik cracked a joke, and Agnes's laugh, soft, genuine, and full of surprise, filled the room. It was a sound that hadn't been heard in years. With every passing day, Agnes shed a heavy cloak of loneliness, replaced instead by warmth and belonging. Her hobbies, long forgotten in the silence of the nursing home, returned. She dusted off old sketchbooks, her shaky hands finding grace again as she sketched the faces of her new family, capturing their kindness with every stroke. In these moments, cooking, gardening, laughing, healing, Agnes began to weave a new story, one not defined by abandonment or loss, but by resilience, renewal, and the unexpected kindness of strangers who became family. Despite the warmth and care she received, Agnes felt a growing restlessness deep inside. She had always been a giver, a teacher, a nurturer, a pillar for those she loved. Now, with kindness showered upon her, she wrestled with fierce need to repay the strangers who had saved her. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in soft oranges, Agnes watched Malik struggling over his schoolwork. His frustration was evident. Furrowed brows, hesitant words, and the heavy weight of something he couldn't quite grasp. It wasn't just typical school struggles. When she gently asked, Malik shared a secret. He had dyslexia. Reading was a mountain he had been trying to climb alone, a silent battle that wore him down. A flood of memories washed over Agnes. Years spent in classrooms, helping children overcome hurdles much like Malik's. Her heart ached knowing this boy, who had shown her such kindness, was fighting in silence. That night, Agnes made a quiet decision. She dusted off her old teaching materials, finding comfort in familiar pages and lessons. Every evening after dinner, Agnes sat with Malik at the kitchen table, patient and encouraging, guiding him through words and letters with gentle hands and steady voice. She tailored lessons, turning challenges into small victories. At first, progress was slow, a misread word here, a stumble there. But Malik's determination grew, fueled by Agnes's unwavering belief in him. Days turned to weeks, and a transformation unfolded. Malik began to excel, reading aloud with newfound confidence, his grades improving, his smile brighter. The bond between teacher and student deepened, filled with quiet pride and mutual respect. Agnes's spirit soared with each success, feeling useful and alive again. But beneath her renewed purpose, Agnes was crafting something else, something bigger. In the stillness of night, she pulled out worn paper and pen, her fingers trembling as they moved across the page. She wrote a letter long and heartfelt, words flowing with gratitude, confession, and a secret hope. This letter wasn't for her children, nor for Lena and Malik. It was for a future she was quietly planning, a bold step to reclaim her dignity and rewrite the story of her life. What that plan was, she kept locked away, a spark of determination lighting her eyes. In the warmth of this new family, Agnes was no longer just a broken, abandoned woman. She was a woman ready to take control, ready to give back, and ready to astonish those around her. The days ahead promised change, not just for Agnes, but for everyone whose lives she touched. As Agnes settled into her new life, her heart began to dream bigger than just personal healing. She wanted to turn the kindness she received into a beacon of hope for others. Late one night, After Malik had finished his homework, Agnes sat at the worn kitchen table, her fingers tracing the edge of an application form. With Lena's quiet encouragement, she applied for a small community grant, an opportunity to start a tutoring center for children like Malik, struggling silently in school, lost in the gaps that no one seemed to notice. Though it was Lena's name on the papers, everyone knew the true force behind the plan was Agnes, the teacher with a heart full of second chances. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of meetings, paperwork, and preparations. Word began to spread in the neighborhood, a story of a grandmotherly figure, the teacher grandma, who dedicated herself to helping kids find their voices and dreams again. Local news picked up the story. The small tutoring center opened its doors in a modest community hall, with Agnes leading the charge, her gentle voice guiding children through letters and numbers, just as she had done for Malik. She became a symbol of resilience, proof that even after being cast aside, life could be reclaimed and reshaped into something meaningful. But amidst the blossoming new life, Agnes's past shadowed her. Flashbacks surfaced in quiet moments, memories of her children, their faces once so familiar and now distant like fading photographs. She remembered the long nights working double shifts, the sacrifices she made so they could have a better life. She remembered birthdays missed, calls unanswered, the excuses that piled up until her name was no longer spoken. The ache of abandonment was raw and sharp, a wound that sometimes threatened to pull her under. Yet, those painful memories after months of hard work, healing, and transformation, Agnes stood in the small, sunlit office of the tutoring center, now a beacon of hope for so many. Today wasn't just about celebrating success. It was about family, in its truest sense. With a gentle smile, Agnes signed the final papers. She was officially adopting Lena and Malik, making their bond unbreakable in the eyes of the law. No longer just strangers who had saved her. They were now her chosen family, bound by love, trust, and shared dreams. Lena wiped away tears as Malik hugged Agnes tightly. The room was filled with quiet joy, years of loneliness and pain melting into moments of belonging and promise. Meanwhile, Agnes' own children, humbled and changed by everything, approached her with tentative hope. Their voices trembled as they asked for forgiveness, recognizing the years of absence and neglect. Agnes listened patiently, her heart softening but her spirit strong. "I forgive you," she said quietly. "But forgiveness is just the first step. Actions will show me who you really are now." Slowly, they began to rebuild their fractured relationship, learning to respect boundaries and appreciate the strength Agnes had found beyond them. Not far away, Malik's journey was blossoming as well. With Agnes' encouragement and tutoring, he had blossomed academically despite the challenges dyslexia posed. He recently received a scholarship to a prestigious school, a dream once thought impossible. At a school award ceremony, Malik credited Miss Agnes, his teacher and grandmother, as the driving force behind his success. His words were heartfelt, a testament to the power of love, guidance, and second chances. The family had come full circle, from abandonment and despair to healing, redemption, and hope. Agnes' legacy was no longer just about survival. It was about flourishing through kindness and courage. Rise fueled her resolve. She refused to be defined by the coldness of her children's neglect. Instead, she poured her heart into every child who walked through the tutoring center's doors, children who needed a champion, someone who believed in them when no one else did. With every success story, Agnes felt herself rise from the ashes of her past. The teacher grandma was no longer just a nickname. It was a testament to strength, compassion, and the power of redemption. Her life, once marked by loss and loneliness, was now a living example that love and purpose could be found even in the darkest moments. And as the community rallied around her, Agnes quietly prepared for the next step in her plan, a step that would bring her face to face with the past she thought she'd left behind. For Agnes, redemption wasn't just about healing herself. It was about reclaiming her story, rewriting her legacy, and showing the world and her children that she was more than forgotten. She was unstoppable. The buzz around Agnes and the tutoring center had grown beyond the small neighborhood. One quiet afternoon, as Agnes was preparing lesson plans, her phone buzzed incessantly. Messages, missed calls, notifications. Her children had seen the news. The viral story of the teacher grandma had reached them, stirring a mix of shock, guilt, and embarrassment. They hadn't expected their mother, whom they had so easily cast aside, to become a local hero. Tentatively, one by one, they reached out. The first call came from her eldest son, his voice trembling, uncertain. "Mom, I saw the news. I don't know what to say." Then came messages from the others, awkward apologies and hesitant requests to meet. Agnes's heart twisted. After years of silence, after feeling abandoned and forgotten, they were suddenly knocking on her door, unsure, perhaps desperate. When they finally came to see her, the reunion was heavy with unspoken words. Her children looked at her with eyes full of regret and confusion, searching for a way to mend the damage. But Agnes did not lash out in anger. Instead, she stood steady, her voice calm but firm, carrying the weight of years spent waiting for them to show up. "Where were you when I needed you?" she asked, her words steady but not cruel. The question hung in the air like a fragile thread, a reminder of every birthday missed, every lonely night, every promise broken. Her children shuffled, unable to answer, faces flushed with shame. Yet Agnes did not close the door. She offered forgiveness, but not without boundaries. She explained that love could not be demanded, and trust could not be rebuilt overnight. "I forgive you," she said gently, "but forgiveness means little if actions don't follow. I am not the same woman you left behind." She invited them to witness the opening of the tutoring center, to see the life she had rebuilt, not for them, but for herself and the children who needed her now. "If you want to be part of this new chapter," she added quietly, "you must be willing to change and show up, not just with words, but with your hearts." Her children left with heavy steps, but a flicker of hope. Agnes stood by the window, watching them go, knowing that the true test of their return had only just begun. She had given them a chance, not for her sake, but for the chance of healing what had long been broken. And this time, she would not be left waiting in the silence. The day of the tutoring center's grand opening had finally arrived. A modest crowd gathered in front of the freshly painted building, a symbol of hope, resilience, and new beginnings. Agnes stood at the podium, her hands slightly trembling but her voice steady, carrying the strength forged from years of heartache and healing. She looked out at the faces before her, the children she would help, the neighbors who had supported her, and the strangers who had become family. Her gaze then found Lena and Malik standing proudly by her side, their smiles warm and encouraging. And there, near the back, she spotted her children, eyes glistening with tears, silent witnesses to the woman they once abandoned. Taking a deep breath, Agnes began to speak, her words weaving to the quiet air like a powerful, tender melody. "Kindness doesn't come from blood," she said, her voice soft but unwavering. "It doesn't come from obligation or from ties we are born into." She paused, letting the weight of those words settle. "Kindness comes from choice, from the choice to care, to show up, to stand by someone when the world turns its back. Those who saved me," Agnes continued, gesturing to Lena and Malik, "chose kindness. They didn't have to, yet they did. They taught me that family is more than genetics. It's love in action." Her voice grew stronger, filled with the fierce compassion of a woman who had been broken but rebuilt stronger than ever. "To those who walk through these doors, whether young or old, forgotten or forgotten no longer, know this. Here, you'll find patience, understanding, and a second chance." Her children listened, tears streaming freely down their cheeks, their hearts opening in a way words alone could not express. Agnes looked at them with quiet forgiveness, but also with the unmistakable message that true love must be earned every day. As the applause swelled, Lena reached out and squeezed Agnes's hand, Malik's eyes shining with pride. This moment was more than the opening of a center. It was a triumph of humanity, the power of choice over circumstance. And as the crowd began to disperse, many approached Agnes with hugs, thanks, and promises to help. She smiled through her tears, knowing that kindness had indeed found its home. And this time, it would never be abandoned again. After months of hard work, healing, and transformation, Agnes stood in the small, sunlit office of the tutoring center, now a beacon of hope for so many. Today wasn't just about celebrating success. It was about family in its truest sense. With a gentle smile, Agnes signed the final papers. She was officially adopting Lena and Malik, making their bond unbreakable in the eyes of the law. No longer just strangers who had saved her, they were now her chosen family, bound by love, trust, and shared dreams. Lena wiped away tears as Malik hugged Agnes tightly. The room was filled with quiet joy, years of loneliness and pain melting into moments of belonging and promise. Meanwhile, Agnes' own children, humbled and changed by everything, approached her with tentative hope. Their voices trembled as they asked for forgiveness, recognizing the years of absence and neglect. Agnes listened patiently, her heart softening but her spirit strong. "I forgive you," she said quietly, "but forgiveness is just the first step. Actions will show me who you really are now." Slowly, they began to rebuild their fractured relationship, learning to respect boundaries and appreciate the strength Agnes had found beyond them. Not far away, Malik's journey was blossoming as well. With Agnes' encouragement and tutoring, he had blossomed academically despite the challenges dyslexia posed. He recently received a scholarship to a prestigious school, a dream once thought impossible. At a school award ceremony, Malik credited Miss Agnes, his teacher and grandmother, as the driving force behind his success. His words were heartfelt, a testament to the power of love, guidance, and second chances. The family had come full circle, from abandonment and despair to healing, redemption, and hope. Agnes' legacy was no longer just about survival. It was about flourishing through kindness and courage. As the sun set on the bustling city outside, Agnes sat quietly in her favorite chair at home, reflecting on the journey that had reshaped her life. Her voice, calm yet compelling, reached out beyond the walls of her home, carrying a message for everyone who might be listening. "Life will test us in ways we never imagined," she began. "Sometimes those we expect to stand by us walk away. But we must remember, our worth is never defined by abandonment or betrayal. Kindness can come from the most unexpected places, and it is always a choice we make. It's not blood that makes a family, but love, respect, and the willingness to stand for each other." She paused, her eyes glistening with tears of both sorrow and hope. To anyone watching this story, whether you feel alone, forgotten, or lost, know that there is always a chance to start over, to build something new, to find family where you least expect it. Never be afraid to reach out, to forgive and to love, even when it feels impossible, because in kindness we find our true strength. Her words lingered softly in the air, a warm embrace for the brokenhearted and a beacon of hope for those still searching. The screen slowly faded to black, leaving behind the enduring truth of Agnes' journey, one of loss, love, and the extraordinary power of the human spirit to heal and rise again. Agnes stands quietly in the center's garden, sunlight filtering through the trees as children laugh and play all around her. Her face, serene and full of gratitude, reflects a journey from loneliness to belonging. Her voice, gentle but unwavering, carries the weight of everything she has endured and learned. You don't get to choose your family, but sometimes family chooses you. She looks around at the smiling faces, at the bonds forged not by blood, but by kindness and care. Never underestimate the power of a stranger's love. Her words hang in the air, a reminder that compassion can transform lives, heal wounds, and create new beginnings where hope seemed lost. And with that, the story closes, not with an ending, but with an invitation to open your heart, to reach out, and to believe in the unexpected strength of human connection.